Good evening, everybody. Wednesday evening, and welcome back to the course in normal mode. It's been grueling for you, and I felt for you. Um, but congratulations, it is all over now, and I think it's been a great learning experience. Judging by the comments on the forums, I gather you did learn a lot. Well done. And when I last looked an hour or so ago, there were still 4 projects that had to be uploaded by Simon. There were some problems in getting, I suppose it was the rush of such big documents all being uploaded at the same time that caused those problems. But thanks for bearing with us. And I spent a large part of today looking at the marks in the build-up um, and doing some management of the marking as well. And two things occurred to me. It's really difficult to give rich feedback and good feedback on these projects. It's much easier to mark them, to make an assessment of what it deserves in terms of a mark. But when I looked at that aspect between Yasser and Samuel, I came up with a 3% variance on their marking allocation of marks. So bear with the feedback. We do our best, but the marks should tell you something. The feedback, we do our best to guide you, but we don't have the context of your project. We're not talking to the stakeholders, and it makes it very difficult. So looking ahead, we're in topic 3. It's strategic project management, and strategic project management requires an introduction to some strategy and some definitions about strategy. And the first one is Hamill, who speaks about the effect of inertia on an organization and the fact that companies very often only embark on a new strategy when they get pushed. And it reminds me of that story. I think we might have spoken about it earlier in the course, a burning platform decision, which comes from a story in the North Sea. An oil rig was on fire. There was a chap still on board on the oil rig. He hadn't yet been evacuated, and it looked like he was going to burn. And all around him in the sea was burning oil. There were patches that weren't burning. And in the moment, he had to take what they call now a burning platform decision, and he jumped. And he landed in a spot of the water that wasn't burning, got picked up by a boat, and he was fine. And very often in organizations, we face burning platform decisions. Our companies are threatened. There's something that we have to do in order to survive, and we embark on a new strategy. Managing this kind of change in organizations is the difference between organizations that survive and those that don't. Another interesting academic is Ackoff, who wrote a lot in the late 70s, was widely published in the Harvard Business Review. And that period of the 70s, 80s was a defining time in terms of understanding strategy. He distinguished between reactive strategy, proactive strategy, and interactive strategy. Reactive strategy is when an organization responds to the environment. So the environment imposes something on them, and then they respond to that, and in that response is a formulation of strategy. Proactive strategy is trying to understand the future, predict it, and organize and plan for it. Interactive strategy is different. Interactive strategy is where an organization takes control and tries to manage the future. And you see companies like Apple and Tesla, and there are a lot of examples of companies that believe that they have so much power they can manage the future and manage the environment to determine what the customer wants and how they're going to make money. Another interesting academic is Mintzberg, and this is one of particular interest to me because I've done some work with this, and he distinguished between emergent strategy, which is what happens when a pattern of decisions emerges which imposes a strategy on an organization. So these decisions might be also a reflection of the environment. It's companies that don't do a lot of strategic thinking, but their strategies emerge just based on what is happening in the environment around them. And then he distinguished between planned strategy and intended strategy. So what you intend is not necessarily what you plan. You might plan certain strategic initiatives also in reaction to, for example, legislation, but it's not your intended direction. It's what you have to do to take into account current imperatives. And then he spoke about realized strategy, and very often the strategy that our organizations realize is not at all what was intended or indeed planned. These distinctions are important, and we also look at agile companies, which has become a popular term recently. And agile companies typically respond to the environment. They're fast followers very often, and they manage change quite well. And in looking at strategy and projects, with projects we're really talking about, or we're really interested in, the degree of alignment between our project and the company strategy or objectives. We're also concerned about the alignment between our project and the other projects around us. Now, if we're in an organization which gives quite a lot of general project support, that general project support will be geared towards the large number of projects, hopefully, that are directed towards achieving the company objectives. But you might find yourself in a position where you're the project manager of a project that is not aligned with the company objectives. Doesn't mean to say that that's not a valid project. It might be in order to satisfy some new legislation or some other kind of current imperative. And nonetheless, you need your project to be successful, and you need the support infrastructure to allow it to be so. If you can choose, don't choose those projects. So it's an interesting environment, and there's quite a lot that we're going to look at in terms of all of this, the influence of the customer on our projects. And this has been very prevalent in recent thinking about really shaping your product development in terms of what the customer really needs, aligning your engineering and identifying the key engineering aspects of your products, which are aligned with exactly what the customer needs, and monitoring and tracking them. So we see a lot now in the literature about projects being aligned with what the customer requires. All of this is very interesting. We're going to learn and talk more about it. We have a tutorial coming up on Sunday, Monday. I was looking forward to it. Unfortunately, I can't attend it. Yasser and Sam will conduct it, but I'm glad I had this opportunity to run some of these things past you at this point. You have a quiz, I think, and a wiki. So quiz, wiki, and a tutorial coming up. So quite an easy week, and certainly far more relaxing than fighting with your project plans. Good luck, everybody, and have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.